Okay. But yeah, with that, I think we'll just turn it over to Delta, and if we have questions or comments at the end, I think everybody can feel free to ask away.
Thank you everyone for coming. My name is Megan Zapora, and I'm an associate at Delta. And tonight we are going to walk you through the recommendations and implementations in our economic development strategy. So an overview of what we did tonight, and also what will be plan strategy, executive summary, and introduction to the planning process, a market analysis overview, public outreach, recommendations, implementation, and some implementation matrices. So we see that Cumru Township stands at a crossroads. There are many benefits in Cumru, such as your strong location, demographics, market demand, but then we also face a series of challenges, and which can lead to issues for sustaining a competitive tax base. We see challenges through the topography, fragmented ownership, and infrastructure constraints. Aging retail and commercial sectors are a struggle as well. We have to be mindful of school capacity and how that can affect future growth, especially as the school district approaches its limits for students it can house. We have to look at current housing as that does not meet the needs of households and aging residents, which affects the township's ability to grow. We also have some broadband issues to think about and basis access routes, as well as state-owned properties. But despite all of these challenges, Cumru Township is well positioned for growth. To address our challenges, we have 4 basic recommendations, which we'll go into detail later, but these are Lancaster Pike as a mixed-use gateway, rethinking and refreshing the township's existing commercial centers, expanding and diversifying housing options, and investing in outdoor recreation and connectivity. By investing in these 4 recommendations, we believe that Cumru Township can grow as a community. So I think you all know Cumru, but we look at it as a large township that has high income and is well situated next to major highways. And we can also see here on the list of steering committee members, and we'll talk more about the steering committee now. So we went through a 3-phase planning process to create this economic strategy. The first phase was analyzing market and economic data from Berks County. We also supplemented some of the data with our own tools. Our second phase was a public outreach process, which I participated in. This public process involved the steering committee, in which we did a SWOT analysis with stakeholders and focus groups, community business surveys, and 2 open houses. And then the final phase of the process was taking the information from the first 2 phases and compiling it to create this plan. And over to talk about the market.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Megan. So going through this process, we have a whole report. It's about 120 pages full of data. So I'll just give you the highlights here. In terms of overview of what we found in terms of your market here, you're really blessed by location here in Cumru Township. As Megan mentioned, you're highways, airports, so it's a great location to be in to the township. The community itself here in Cumru Township, you're highly educated and actually stable, which is great. So happy your residents hold US degrees and household income here around $3,000, which is pretty darn high for this area. So it's great to see. Opens up a lot of opportunity. The township also benefits from deep talent pipeline filled by graduates in high demand fields. So there's a good for folks in Cumru Township with good industries, which is great to see as well. Through the retail concern significant growth opportunities across multiple sectors. Because you do have such a high household income, folks here, which offers opportunities for the commercial sector. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned before, some background household income is about $3,000, which is pretty high. 3.78, which is about consistent with the region. Some folks that live in the township associates to be more higher, so it's a pretty high education threshold. The total population is just under 16,000. So looking here about sector here in the township with which healthcare. About 33% of the township workforce as a whole, about 18 jobs, that's pretty significant. It's a pretty strong healthcare region, so it definitely makes sense. And in addition, small businesses, about 80% here in the township works at small businesses, and there's about 307 establishments here in Cumru Township, some of them small businesses here locally. Some key metrics looking at the housing market. Home value is a year or two, it's about 203,000. Household here is about 18,000. It's about 1,200. Household size is 2.48. That's pretty consistent with the region. So looking at some opportunities here, as I mentioned, because you do have such a high household income, folks in the township have to spend. So as I mentioned, there's about 318 consumer demands. There's like the economy here in Cumru Township because you don't have businesses in those industries. It goes into development townships or cities or what have you. So as you can see in the graph here, top market opportunities, bond some electronic shopping, some makes sense, some purchasing, some business goes elsewhere. Grocery stores, clothing stores, and department stores. So really intended to show that there's opportunity to keep spending township of the population base, but it's currently going elsewhere because you don't have the businesses, these industries to support the demand currently.
Thanks, Dan. Outreach. Six-pronged public outreach was the section. There's an section with the student focus groups and stakeholders to go switching survey. And this public outreach consistently demonstrated some of the following themes. Housing, we see a significant lack of particularly the first house. We see Asian stock, which is also trying to do with families. But we do see a strong housing market. We do the fact that a school district doesn't have a huge capacity, and so we suggest that for that and accommodate the school district. And to see that structure and shovel-ready sites from customer have some development sites and some Custer Pike small parcels rather than large ones that would be easy to develop. And we also see that there are that will require additional public investment. This is also pretty typical for Lancaster Pike. And recently, see that the township has a lack of options. Commercial buildings have vacancies are older and not appealing. And outdoor space, we see that we have a lack of recreation. And residents do desire ability and recreation, particularly playgrounds for our children. And we also see that space, particularly things like forest, is key. So for challenges, like we talked about, the disconnect between existing infrastructure and future needs, such as if we're doing things, we need to improve our water and sewer. Some to be acquired from shovel-ready sites. This ties into our small fragmented parcels. And portions of Lancaster Pike are in the flood zone A. For opportunities, we see the ability to build housing stock and revitalize our existing housing stock. Market and resident feedback don't point to dining options and seeks development positively. We also see that Titus Station provides ample redevelopment opportunities for light industrial and see the desire for investing that friendly infrastructure. The combination of the market analysis and public outreach then leads for recommendations which Dan want to walk you through. Our first one is Lancaster Pike and New Vision. Our goal is to take Lancaster Pike, which is currently a fragmented, car-centric community or strip. I can to walk down there. It's not exactly safe or appealing. I'd also take that and turn into a walkable mixed-use environment. So there's retail, restaurants, some office space, and housing. We want this to be the gateway into Cumru. So when you drive in, you see what Cumru is about and what you offer. We think that it can be a vibrant area with good spaces, pedestrian infrastructure, and landscaping, signage, things that make Cumru look good.
Okay, the second area here is rethinking refreshing commercial. Some great points about Lancaster Pike. There are commercial areas. A lot of existing consumer spending power is going on with Cumru Township because there's some commercial plazas. They're not necessarily with the businesses the folks here in the township shop at. There will be some types of businesses that are missing. They're just underused. Some vacancies there. So as part of the recommendation here, guys refreshing commercial business for the other. So the first thing is a Cumru Township that we see, and do see, and zero first impressions. So this is really what the township should be looking at. So partnerships with the developers and those properties. We'll talk a little bit about but as you can see on the slide here, here's an example from Drexline Shopping Center in Nipper Township. So this is just one case study. Shopping Center is from them, but through investment and partnership, turn into something great for the folks that are there. Someone going through this process is the current existing township and see what condition that folks want to see as they buy homes in the market. Exactly currently. So two things that we recommend to so to a state that can to existing housing stock, some properties back to the markets and update them, make them for folks. And I think that can be a collaboration and partnership with the Brooks County Housing Authority, which is a partnership that will keep to their existing housing stock. We're talking a little bit about mixed use development. This seems to be folks in shop So we're talking about issues as well.
Thanks, Dane. I also like to point out there's a lot of text on the slides, but these are pages directly from the final economic development strategy, which will become publicly available. And so you'll be able to read through this more in depth as you need in the future. So our fourth and final recommendation is play and connect, recreation and connectivity. So we talked about before that residents desire that recreation, whether that's parks, trails, playgrounds, and so to create a consistent system of recreation in the township, we suggested to start off creating a comprehensive recreation park and open space plan. This plan will look at your existing infrastructure and future to improve expand the new recreation infrastructure. So our goal is to assess the need for upgrades, examine your existing parks, evaluate existing programming, and that underserved neighborhoods, and then develop plans to address these needs. And I have some specific recommendations for implementation for each of the 4 recommendations. Give it to Dane for zoning.
Okay, our first recommendation here is we've got the competitions. This is the it's not really should do some existing limitations. There's a current mixed use general commercial district along Lancaster Park. It's looking through the ordinance as it's written. Still speaks about commercial use. So what we recommend is a traditional district that shut. So just for folks out there, the district doesn't supersede the existing zone, doesn't like but as to the existing zoning. So district series of properties, the underlying districts and still are just essentially recording some additional times with that new zoning language. So the first area that we will be looking at this will be in the current mixed use general commercial district property. Commercial bit here. So the persons that are coming some persons Lancaster Park it's about Lancaster Park, so it's pretty consistent with the existing zone, which is the comments, some principles that we talked about with the residential and some common including commercial office, etc. So the second one, Lancaster Park. If you go to the next slide, questions here. As you can see here, this runoff in Spring Township, so there have to be some partnership. So district to extend the Spring Township, everything to the right. This runoff is Township and go back to the district. Okay. So this is the township, so from the township to the map to so we are to so So as we mentioned, sure that everything's consistent with the properties and some of those mentions of the so it's to be consistent with that. Turn it over to you to talk about the complement's recreation space.
Thanks, Dan. So I know I touched on this earlier, but the township seek funding from the Pennsylvania Department of Natural Resources to prepare a comprehensive outdoor recreation, parks, and open space plan. And so this plan will guide future investments in your parks and other recreation infrastructure. So the goal of the plan to form a steering committee comprised of both municipal staff, residents, and key stakeholders. Make sure we get opinions from everyone. Define initial goals, expectations, and set a time. We'll seek funding through DCNR to complete the plan. And through that funding, the township will hire a qualified consultant who is experienced in plans like this and will complete the plan. And from there, implementation will follow to build some new parks. For Lancaster Pike, we are suggesting that the township pursue a master site plan. That it is important that we create Lancaster Pike thoughtfully, making sure it's not piecemeal and meet all of the township. So through a master plan process, we ensure thoughtful development, and this will be a 4-step process. We'll again create an passionate about making sure that everyone's heard. Phase 2 will be assessing the pike and development potential. Phase 3 will be vision and design. And phase 4 will lead to early action projects such as streetscaping, infrastructure, and other public space improvements. The township will also seek funding for this plan and then hire an engineer or architect to complete the plan.
So I mentioned some recommendations. Some common process. So what can this is going to through this process. So it was a great effort, and it's really like to partnership with the county to structure these. And we're spending renovations through this agency, through the state. And going through that process, one thing you do is set up with established guidelines, application intake process. So that's kind of the first step, just getting the program, development guidelines, etc. You go through that process, you develop an application, and secure funding to initiate the program. So folks that you have with running or through this funding source. Project and program contract and township goals, process in place for agency providing the things, case the township and have to administer the program, etc. And then to ensure that everything's done up to spec through a construction final inspection and closeout process. So talking about taxes, so that's a big piece of the strategy for so centers of the township is a process called so in this process, in this case, the municipal government would take out show infrastructure improvements, and through the process of that developer improving the property, increasing the tax revenue, Those parcels in response to that, some relevant. It's increased through the tax revenue that would go back to help pay off the initial infrastructure on. So this is a way to get infrastructure in place for development without having some kind of security to finance it essentially. So it's an attractive incentive for folks to develop in the township. Another opportunity tax assistance. That one's coming sliding scale. School district partner to taxes scale. So when it start at 5 or 10 years in tax, it's still out. Taxing out. That's one of the materials that is interested. When paying like taxes, that's an opportunity for options that taxes like some that handles nonprofits. In some cases, the right part of this pattern that some because of the property taxes because of the tax stamps also come services and such. So ways to look at this. There's been some precedent here in Bucks County, the TRF district, and to help accommodate some private sector investment. So there's opportunities to do the TRF. Those are usually all districts, and it's just a certain area within sharing through some of these tax incentives. Shows through recommendations should have to so that is to sector investments and through some of the programs and tactics that we mentioned.
Thanks, Tim. Next, we have a community safety action plan. We recommend that the township pursue the development of a comprehensive safety action plan in order to get transportation in the township. From the public outreach, residents are interested in transportation and communities utilize transportation, such as biking and walking. And so a safety action plan will eliminate township's existing transportation and recommendations. This is particularly of safety. We can see, unfortunately, that you have relatively high crash statistics involving pedestrians and cyclists, and unfortunately with fatalities and serious injuries. So completing a safety action, get the township's existing infrastructure, see what needs to be done to change it to make it safer and more accessible for both vehicles, in particular for cyclists and pedestrians. And there are 7 components of a comprehensive safety action plan. These are leadership commitment, goal setting, planning structure, a safety analysis, engagement and collaboration, policy and process change, strategy and product selections, and progress and transparency. We recommend the township will seek funding for this, and a qualified transportation engineer safety action plan will be completed, and ultimately completion of safety action to fund transportation projects that will fund the state to improve speeds and trails and such. This recommendation is branding. It's highly important both for existing residents from, but also for attracting and businesses. I know that Cumru Township has a lot to offer. There it's no your proximity to highways, rural living is really important. And yeah, the township has great services too. So there are many benefits of Cumru, but if people don't know about them, they're going to come. And so we're suggesting that Cumru develops a marketing strategy. So commissioners or someone else is looking or talking about Cumru, they can provide beliefs about how to represent the township. We're also suggesting that the website doesn't it can be difficult sometimes. And so suggesting it's also easier to search for things, so communication is transparent about what's going on. Yeah, so that's something easier to use. We're also suggesting that the township create a social media presence. Currently, and so we create some the township can post events like this. We can post when there's an inclement weather happening. We're going to both engage and get people excited about what's happening. There's also the possibility to partner with other university through the marketing department. They have a program for students to gain experiential learning with community businesses or entities to work on social media. And so they get skills and we get some help. So that is a great opportunity to create some mutually beneficial partnerships. And lastly, some gateway infrastructure. So with all the development, we get some adding signage that makes Cumru easy and exciting to visit. And so it has some walk on step by step through some recommendations for how to achieve these goals. Because this is a lot and it's kind of overwhelming to think about, but we're going to break it down so it's easy to look at.
Okay, the first of our implementation, which you see here, is adding some mixed use or districts that we show here. So this is the first step to call some development types that folks who township decide is necessary through criticism. Just doesn't just define some additional development times up there. So the process going see the process that the township would have to go through. The commission versus planning commissions to be had through this process. Some opportunities for folks that they can as well. Something kind of house that kind of it's a little two through so it's not really as cohesive as well as books. So strong so this systems to townships and spans to current conditions so reach out to the systems shows the process the levels change goes through some planning commission looks and scale planning commission looks on it's option some sometimes you need to some current trends throughout the country depends on some So there's some development types, Cumru Township, the township, the plan for so that's something definitely recommend. In terms of tax incentives and what TIF districts, turn this one over to Megan.
Sure. To tax incentives, we still have a financial incentive task force. So involve over key stakeholders. And through that, so as the LOTA or TIF district, the township LOTA program strategy with guidelines. And so the TIF create guidelines that include the geographic descriptions and land lines, and improvements that will be financed. We develop an authorizing ordinance. We devise LOTA program and TIF ordinance as well. To promote the LOTA and TIF programs, and ultimately we like to host a developer summit to promote that Cumru Township is open for business. For Mr. Public, we suggest we start out by securing funds for a master site plan and go through the process by creating a working steering committee. We'll develop an RFP for a consultant. And after the consultant is selected, they will assess the pike, identify development potential. We'll develop a vision for Lancaster Pike and public meetings. We'll identify some early action projects and we'll work to secure funding for those early action projects so we get an early win.
Okay. So we're going to install some existing properties to discuss goals and objectives for the strategic plan, which is this document. And just let them know there was a market here to improve the properties, and if they do so, get different partnership opportunities with the township development. Interested property owners to develop concepts that are with the township's looking at, and development cost estimates for the public and private improvements, whether that's sidewalks or trails or different types of development that people could use. If necessary, secure funding for Mr. Site Plan. Also secure funding to assist with the construction of public improvements to nearby township and utility companies. Resources such as RAP to assist with some private sector costs, and it's an opportunity for the township to potentially service and pass through some public funding. So sure account statement and CFO and some transportation. So,
I guess that's me. So we suggest for housing that we come with the Berks County Development Authority to develop those guidelines for the rehabilitation program. Well, then the township will then conduct an outreach and intake effort to find so interested stated. Submit a request for fair CDG funding to the program. Based on the received, we'll implement the program. And then we'll move on to some mixed-use development, or the area conducive to mixed-use development, develop a public-private partnership to advance the development, and secure funding to assist with the public improvements. This is also an area where we use the grant programs such as RAC, GLSA, and some CFA and PennDOT multimodal programs. Next, for attention number 6, we have expanded our outdoor recreation and activity. Discussed secure funding to prepare the comprehensive recreation park and open space plan. We'll create a steering committee We'll issue the RFP and select a consultant to prepare the plan. The consultant, the township will develop a plan that will opportunities for improvements identified in the comprehensive recreation park and open space plan. For funding sources, we have DC's Community Conservation and Partnerships Program, also known as C2P2. DC is a program called Greenways, Trails, and Recreation. Both of these programs could be for planning as well as future implementation. We can also look at LSA and RACP for some implementation projects. And then we have implementation number 7, which is transportation. First off, the township will seek funding to hire an engineer to create the comprehensive safety action plan as well as a Vision Zero plan. And to future implementation projects. And lastly, for implementation 8, that the township first start by talking with communities of local businesses to develop a clean marketing strategy, that makes attractive to residents and new businesses. Next, we should create guidelines that specify goals, a color palette, typography, and a voice or marketing materials. Talk to people about Cumru. Next, the township website should be updated both to improve accessibility and visual guidelines, and the updated website to follow the township's brand guidelines for colors, etc. The township should create social media accounts for Cumru, such as LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, X. We would like the township to be visible everywhere. And after creating these accounts, they should regularly post on social media to engage communities. Posts be about reminders, catch the key events, profiles highlighting businesses and community partners, even emergency alerts, and Cumru Township fun facts. That could be exciting. As Cumru works with developers, they should work to communicate and branding guidelines to developers, especially for signage and gateway features for new commercial centers. And lastly, invest in art that highlights Cumru Township's attractions. So commercial spaces or revitalizing, adding things like statues and murals that reflect what Cumru is. And there is funding available for some of these too, through programs we discussed before, like LSA. And this is the end of the questions and implementation. And so I guess we can turn it over for any questions.
Yeah, real quick before we get to questions. First of all, Megan and Dane, thank you very much. Delta has been phenomenal partners throughout this process. I realize I'd be remiss if I didn't also acknowledge the members of our steering committee that are up here. Commissioner Greg Miller, most of you know, I'm Andrew Donnell, President of the Board of Commissioners here at Cumru. This is Beverly Leonti. She's been one of our members of our planning commission. Dr. Lisa Hess, Superintendent of the Governor Mifflin School District, and with Peter Marshall, he recently joined us as our acting township manager. All of us in varying degrees are happy to answer questions, but I think most of them would probably be directed at Delta. I did want to clarify, just for the public, the presentation we saw, none of these are decisions that have been made. We brought Delta in because when we looked at the economic landscape ahead of Cumru Township, we needed to chart a course to prosperity that benefited everyone in the community. To do that in a way that was data driven, that we could make decisions with our eyes open and not just steer blindly into the future wherever that led. So Delta is making recommendations. The decision that will be made will come before the Cumru Township Board of Commissioners. None of the decisions are being made behind closed doors. I encourage everyone who's here, to some friends, please come to our Board of Commissioners meeting. Please bring your thoughts and ideas. As we did our best to engage the community throughout this process, and we want the community's feedback to continue as we move forward. This was is zero. We want to get eyes on what's going on, understand the landscape of Cumru's economic situation. And then we can start thinking about how we process that information. So with that, I'll turn it over to the public. Feel free to ask questions. I'd ask, at least for starters, questions be reserved to taxpaying residents of Cumru Township. If there is time and availability, we could take questions from members. But for now, I'm going to give the taxpayers of the township an opportunity to ask questions of Delta, the steering committee, or whomever.
Just to let folks know, if you speak, just come up to the podium, please, so that the so that the video can pick up what you have to say.
Mike Notarski, get a little taller here. So I heard a lot of great ideas, but I didn't hear anything about reducing our tax load. So that's my major concern. Hiring more consultants and all this stuff to get this stuff done has no bearing on how we're going to get our taxes down. Lancaster Pike was killed by 222. That strip of highway had a Ford dealership on it. It had other stuff on it. It had restaurants on it. It had all kinds of stuff down that strip. I'm here for 63 years. I know what that used to be. When they put that road in there, they killed it, just like they did the Reading Motor Inn when they closed Park Road. People don't come down that road anymore unless they have to come down that road. They'll go right past that exit and go right into Spring Township, head for the Target and all the new stuff they had built over there. So that's not going to work unless we somehow can get traffic to come off the highway easily. So it's not easy to head south on 222 to come business route north on 222. You have to go up over a bridge, across the thing, and back down through. It's not easy, and people like easy. Okay, that's one thing I don't like. That I don't think is going to pan out unless you can change PennDOT's mind on how we route traffic. Not going to happen. Secondly, on recreation, I go to Nolan all the time. I see no one. There might be 3 people there. I go on the bike trail down past the Rainbow Fertilizer. You pass no one. So I don't know how much of this stuff we actually need that's going to be beneficial to our tax dollars. Okay, I understand recreation for our kids. The Shillington Park used to have an ice skating rink. It used to have a decent place for people to hang out. And on weekends, it's a mess. And for some reason, we can't fix the skating rink. We used to go there all the time. There was a toboggan run there. That was recreational. The backside of the Reading Rehab was a ski slope. That was closed back in the 60s. So there are places here for things people to do, they just don't do them. So I don't think that's what we need to be doing. We need to find a way to revitalize how we make money. Giving people tax incentives, they stay around for the 10 years and they leave. And then we lost all that tax money. I don't get a $10 10-year tax waive on my property tax or my school taxes. So why should we give the business? I don't see us being able to bring anybody in that has enough tax backing to defer how much taxes our citizens in Cumru Township pay. That's all I have. Thank you.
I guess what I would say, Mike, is like just maybe try and reserve judgment until we actually get into this a little, see what comes around, what doesn't come around. We decide that nothing's going to work and this is going to just be a total waste of time. Just let's see. Give it a chance. In terms of funding for additional this, that, and the other thing, where there's a lot of opportunities out there through state and federal money. We wouldn't have to fund this. The recent thing with 222 at the master plan, we submitted an LSA grant for that, so that's not something we would be looking at paying for. And everything else, I guess I'd say let's just keep it in mind for the time being, because doing nothing is going to just perpetuate what we have right now. And that's somewhat of a river dive mentality that I just don't have, and I don't know how to benefit by not doing anything.
This is the first I'm seeing this, and as a member of the steering committee, I feel that that's been shared with us beforehand as according to the contract. This was back in November, and here it is 2 months later, and we're seeing it. One Forest is a state recreational center. It's not a township-owned recreational facility. So I know a lot of yours says Nolde Forest, and it's great that it's in our township, but we don't have management over it. The state does. A lot with Lancaster Pike is owned by PennDOT. PennDOT does not want to give up their little slivers. They don't want to give up where their old bowling is. I don't know how it's going to be easy to tell PennDOT, hey, we want this land. Because it's the first I'm seeing a lot of this. I'm seeing some interpretation. Is that it's going to be contract next year for the 2026 year? I would probably I'll questions after I review it more in depth. Because, this is just an overview and I would like to see it more in depth so that I can ask knowledgeable questions.
And along those lines, and the sign will address the, we'll send out the entire 120 pages to you, so you'll be able to see the whole thing.
I didn't see the question, just a quick acknowledgement. Going into this, and I think one of the things Megan led with is that it's understood that the challenges are myriad here. We understand the tax situation. The scenario, a while back, I think, might be bringing it up, Dr. Hess. Gregory, with Dr. Hess talking about the financial circumstances that the school district are trying to partner closely with our school district, and it's not a township problem where expenses are going one direction and revenues are going in a friendly direction. We're trying to get in front of some of these trends we're seeing in economic forecast. If expenses keep just doing much, Mr. Tarski brought up, there's not much you can do except for taxes in those situations. We have fire departments, we have schools, we have police, we have services. These are social services that are mandated that we have to provide, and they don't get cheaper. What we're trying to do is get in front of the challenges we're facing today, not just to meet those challenges, but to be ready to be ahead of them a few years down the road. So challenges are understood. We're not afraid of challenges. We do this because we're welcoming the challenge. This needs to be done. It needs to be done sooner than later. What that thing is, that like I said, this was phase 0. It's a problem very clearly understand the picture. From here, we get to start thinking about brainstorming with everyone's feedback. What do we do about the picture?
I'm Judith Ingram from Stallion Hall. Oh, thanks. I'm short. So I pretty much agree with the prior speaker about the finances. I think we have financial challenges. We need more revenue base, and I don't think spending first is prudent. Spending being sold on of education services, and I heard mention the bond. I think it would be practice to go into debt to try to attract unidentified businesses here. Furthermore, I don't think the people who live here now, put in the bill, are doing small houses. That's clearly for somebody else, and I don't want to pay for it. How do I benefit from building townhouses The higher the density, the more the cost in terms of services. That doesn't benefit, and the people who live it, you think we're gonna sell our houses and move into condos so we can walk to like a local supermarket? It seems all externally focused. So that's my comment.
I guess there's just a couple of things I'd say to that. I mean, if the focus isn't solely just based off of townhouses, like that's not. I can tell you all the conversations I've had with various developers here, it's not just townhouses. And everything's going to be a little different depending on the area. That's kind of without going too far into details, that's probably about all I can share at this point, but it's not solely townhouses or anything like that. It's going to be a variety of different things spread across the entire area. Mixtures of commercial, mixtures of residential, and there's potentially some industrial updates in certain areas that are already zoned industrial. You know, with the thought of not funding stuff ahead of time for unknown, like I'm not quite sure where that came from. That's when we just like blindly fund things, like we would always tie that to something. So, I'm not really sure what else to say about that. We just kind of spend money randomly praying for somebody to come. That doesn't make any sense. So I would agree with you. That would be criminal if we did that. But like, it's not something that's in the cards here. I'm sure there's probably more points that I've already forgotten, so I apologize for that. But hopefully we'll hit some of the highlights that you had there.
Give folks from Delta a chance to comment, but I think it's important to go back to the fact that we're trying to work closely with the greater government Flint community and beyond. I think we would have a very unhappy superintendent of the school district if we just said we're focused on building a whole bunch of family, because what that means is the school district has to foot the bill and pass that burden on. We're not looking to do that. The goal here is to increase the tax burden. It's quite the opposite. But there's a certain levers that we have out at our disposal. I guess before we get to the next question, do you guys from Delta have anything to add in here?
Comment on the tax abatements.
Comment the tax abatement question or comment that was made about offering a tax abatement program once it's done, the developer, property owner leaves. I was a very long time ago, borough manager in the borough of Carnegie, old steel town, same situation. We're doing this. Expenses, we're doing this. We adopted a tax abatement program. And we have same comments that I'm hearing tonight. You know, it's not going to work. It won't achieve what you wanted to achieve. And what it did was revitalized Main Street, but it also brought in 2 corporate centers, which not only increased the property tax base, but created jobs as well. So that 10 tax abatement actually helped us in our compensation effort. And yes, the school district, the county, and the municipality gave up a portion of taxes, existing taxes. So the other thing that you have to keep in mind is with a tax abatement program, you don't lose anything. Right now, those developers would continue to pay the taxes that exist today. What you gain is a tax base. And then year one, it's 100%, and then it decreases every year so that by 90%, or you can do a 5-year. But I think what you have to keep in mind with the tax abatement program, and I'm a big believer in it because I've actually experienced what it can do for an older community or even a new community. But keep in mind that it is an investment and it does produce results. Were there any other comments that we needed?
I'm Todd Dietrich, 22 Hilbert Avenue. Yeah, I spent 11 years working at Spring Township as a public works supervisor. Every time we acquired a new development that had open space, it dumped more of a workload on the public works department. It was great getting those open spaces, but after the developer was gone, or any other facility that we received or acquired, it put more of a workload on the public works department. And now we're trying to downsize the public works department, I guess, or shift people around it. We talked about eliminating firefighters and police. And all I can see, you're going to need more people. The other concern I have now is, as an aging resident of Cumru Township, approaching 67 years old, I'm not going to see any benefit from this. All I know is I'm going to see tax increases potentially, but I'm not going to see any benefit. If anything, I think the Board of Commissioners should also consider a freeze on any tax increases going forward for senior citizens 65 or over. We will not benefit from that. Thank you.
There's been a couple of comments I just want to say and reiterate Teresa's point, or maybe piggyback on it, I guess. Whether it's a tax abatement, a bond issuance, any lever or knob that gets pulled is not decided, and like Greg said, is going to be thoughtfully considered by the entire Board of Commissioners, not the folks you see up here. Every single elected commissioner will have a voice in whether a tax abatement is issued. Tax abatement like Alerta, the school district and the county. This is not going to be just a Delta says do Alerta, and Commissioner Donnell says, yep, we're doing Alerta. That's not how this is going to work at all. This is going to have commissioners has to deliberate this. It will be publicly deliberated in our public meetings as we go forward. Right now, what we wanted to do is get the public's eyes on the work that Delta has already done in terms of just assessing the landscape today and where we are right now, what we do and how we address the challenges, the many challenges, is undetermined. I think Delta has a lot of recommendations that the Board of Commissioners, I think most of whom are in the room, will be considering and publicly deliberating together with your feedback. So please continue to bring it. And just to quickly address the comment about tax freezes, there are certain things that are outside of the purview of Cumru Township and levers that we're not able at our disposal. I don't think that would be one. But yeah, to raise taxes, quite the opposite. I think we're trying to avoid raising taxes. So please, we have another question.
Yes, Barbara Dietrich, 22 Hilbert Avenue. And I'm going to focus my comments specifically on Lancaster Pike. Lancaster Pike, unlike Carnegie Borough, the Hershey, and some of the other projects that you've done through that Delta development, this is not a street. We're not talking about Lancaster Avenue. In Shillington, we're talking about Lancaster Pike. Lancaster Pike, as Bev identified, has some unique issues involving other parties. Shillington Water, the fact that there is no water in some parts of Lancaster Pike. You have the partnership. You have to figure out something, how you're going to address those issues. The PennDOT issue. There are other players that are involved here that I haven't heard anybody talk about, and they need to be addressed. We can't do anything without addressing some of these infrastructure issues. We have the zone, a flood zone. That's also a problem. And do have a concern about the businesses that are already there. Are we going to engage in any kind of eminent domain, which again is costly? We don't want to chase out businesses that are already there to replace them with other businesses. So if eminent domain is part of what your big plan is for Lancaster Pike, I find that a concern and not fair to the existing businesses. Thank you.
I just wanted to. I just want to offer a similar comment to what I said to Mike a little bit. Just I feel like we just rolled in a little bit here in the court. I'm talking about eminent domain, tax increases, and this isn't gonna work, and that's gonna work. And somebody said, we're just at the beginning, like, the opportunities are that we're gonna have yet, or what we're going to do exactly. There's a pretty extensive list, as you see in the consultant report, that we can work through. It's a process that we have to go through, figure out what's going to make sense and what not. Once again, if we're just going to decide this isn't going to work, I can pretty much guarantee there's no tax decreases coming for anybody anytime soon. This is kind of the only path that we have to change the trajectory we're on. Unless we're just going to hack a lot of staff off, but eventually you hack off so much staff that will materially impact your operations of the township from to a negative perspective. We're able to service people in the manner that they want to be serviced. So, I guess I would say just watch, maybe just kind of let's work through the process, join us in the process, listen to what folks have to say and work through everything with us before we've decided that this is going to fail and nothing's going to work.
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly acknowledge about infrastructure. Again, you had some of these community engagement sessions, town halls, etc. Some of the points that were just brought up. SWAT session. What are the challenges here? We're trying to get Delta to give us rose-colored sunglasses here. We're trying to get the real picture and the challenges that we have to face, because we can't do anything if we don't understand the challenges. The infrastructure challenges are real. That challenges are real. These challenges, I don't think if anyone up here are challenges. Doing nothing is worse than doing nothing is not an option. If what we're after is avoiding tax increases. If you want to avoid tax increases, don't do nothing. That's what I have to say about that. I also want to just take it over to Delta again, because you've been deep in the weeds on infrastructure and how some of the first things like that may come into play. Some of these challenges, done some analysis and that.
But
And we'll go back to the point where, let's go back to Lancaster Pike. And that is one of the things that we heard from the very beginning, both from the steering committee and community, what Lancaster Pike is. So we're not going to ignore that. We can't walk away and say, well, there's too many challenges here. It's not going to just walk away from that. You can't. I will say that this is going to be a lot of work. It's not going to be easy. But without restoring commercial centers, revitalizing Lancaster Pike, and I didn't see the comments to go over the Pike right now for two to go to. Lancaster Pike, which again is going to take a lot of work and it's going to require understanding infrastructure needs, is going to understand cobble together properties, how you do infill development, conflicts with existing businesses, is to keep those businesses that are in operation and those businesses, which helps also energize and create new opportunities for the customer base. But it's going to take a lot of work. Giving up, like the commissioner said, at this point, doing nothing doesn't increase your tax base. This plan is developed around public input. Didn't do some vacuum. We had surveys done. We had surveys. We had steering committees to the public, and that's how this plan was developed, by listening and providing recommendations that we have seen in other communities and we've done in other communities, and that they can be successful. Yeah, it's going to take a lot of work. There is public funding. That's why we provided some of that within the matrix, so that
how you can get these funded. More times than not at 100% of the cost. So as we do have, say statewide, that you can apply for up to $1 no match. And those are the types of programs that we are asking you to look at and to submit for applications for.
Just a quick follow that up before we get on the next. Some grants out. Could you just speak some of what we've already gotten started on?
Sure. So in September, we submitted what's called RAC, Redevelopment Assistance Capital Program. And the goal of our submission is to see existing commercial spaces. And so the funds in partnership with private commercial space owners to their facades and streetscape, other public, and so you have commercial spaces that will be better for you, but also attracting people from outside places. And so that shows the existing and so additional cost to the township. We're also asking that the private for the engineer, because if they're getting to benefit them and their businesses, they need money in. That's the goal of private partnership. The state of that plan, township dollars involved. And second episode was to fix the website. So again, the state will completely pay for the entire website. We do, which is really great. And a federal grant from the EPA, it's called the Relied Assessment Grant. And the goal of this is at existing development, because the funds and could possibly be contamination. We're not saying that you are a contaminated community. So yeah, so Pike, which does have say like some car-oriented businesses which could have physical contamination, and so let's then assessments which would be required for development and started on the path to development there. And it's also a zero match program.
Thanks.
It's good.
Is we're all old. Okay. We're all old. Okay, I'm 69, but there's not a lot of young people here, okay? And we're old. And if I'm a young person coming in this community, the main thing I'm thinking about is what's my school system? We use Tawansi and we use to Wilson. We get heat by them. Governor Wilson, I'm sorry, is looked down upon in this area as not having a very good school system. I've been here since 1988, and I felt that all along, unfortunately. And that's an issue that I think is imperative that you guys address is what can we do to improve our image of having a solid school system here. Is looked on as a horrible school system, but they have a vast, business area out there that they can get tax base from it. We don't seem to have that. How can we increase the people who come here and live here in the best school system we have? People come in these houses, our housing values go up, the tax base goes up. Yes, we have to deal with it, the industry, kind of stuff in business that's over, but we have to deal with the people who live in this area. I like the beauty of it. I like the topography of it. It's absolutely wonderful. And it's not super hustle bustle like Spring Township has become crazy. I like that about Cumru. I don't return this in the spring, but I'd like to get some of their dollars if we could get it. And there's nothing wrong with a bedroom community that's very affluent. And if we can fund ourselves through increased housing prices, and again, if we're not all selling our houses, it doesn't matter to me if this guy's house over there becomes very expensive. It's not really affecting me directly right now. But if we can get more people coming, that want to live here, want to buy houses, want to fix up houses here. Here's a typical example. A family member is getting a new house. When born and raised here in Cumru Township, he's not living. He's in Cumru Township now. He's in Wilson. Okay. And why did we lose him? Because the school system took him out of here. So we need to address that. I think it's a very important point. I think we could become a very stern way around or anything like that. We draw people out of the community because those old people aren't going to be there for long.
Do you want to give Dr. Hess you an opportunity? Okay. Sure.
How are you?
I want to just acknowledge the sentiments. I proudly started my grade school career at Cumru Elementary School. Proudly graduated from government. Senior high school, barely. I was a good student back then. Turned it around. But the folks that are still in the area, dogs. I talk shit because I gotta. I'm not standing. And I'm proud of it. And I hear what you're saying. Because we can't do that. We can't, invest in our community. I agree with that. Pretty much everything you said. I think we can do all that. We just need to have creative, open minds and figure out what it is and keep giving us that feedback. But
I do, you know, for me, it's, I don't want to come off as being like so harsh to our school district, though. Like, I think it's definitely a perception you're right. I think there is a perception in the community about Wilson and so on and so forth. I am so glad, like, you know, I just because like Wilson has this perception doesn't mean it's necessarily leaps and bounds better than Governor Mifflin. I mean, my son moves to Governor Mifflin. I see the work that they're doing there. They're doing a good job. So I don't think that we have a failing school district or anything that by any means. Now, perception, yeah, I think you're spot on, Scott. The perception is there. Now, whether it's reality or not is a whole different question. But I think that's part of what we have to do here is kind of foster a whole brand, if you will, a whole image that this is a good place to live. Like, this is a nice place. Like you said, there's great topography. People like living here. I've heard that in the surveys. Like, people do enjoy being here. We just want to see some other movies in here. There's some things that we have to do to increase our tax base so that we can keep it more affordable and kind of keep it to that place where we want it to be in the future. Because you know, maybe some of the folks are more chronologically gifted, as was spoken out here, but not all of us are. Like, some of us are going to be here for quite some period of time. And we have to think about those folks as well, not just the not that we're ignoring the folks that are senior as suggested here, but that's not the only constituents that we're dealing with here. We have young people, we have people that are kind of middle-aged as myself. We have to think about the long term as well, not simply just the short term.
Well, I'm Phyllis Nord. Hi, Greg.
Oh, nice to meet you, Phyllis.
Meet you.
Yeah.
His compatriot. Okay, I just want to kind of continue on that because the family member he's talking about is our son, who lives in Mifflin Park, has a home there. And he's actually moving out into sinking because what I worry about is sometimes when you get investors to come in and buy houses, maybe with grants, what's happening on Evans Street is investors are coming in and quickly maybe changing over houses a little bit. And then the people who are moving in are renters who don't seem to be from Cumru Township. They seem maybe to be coming from Reading. And he sees that and he doesn't want his children to possibly be going to school with these kids. And I don't know if you guys can, I mean, we've got spillover from into Muhlenberg, and I think we're getting spillover into Cumru Township as well with that. And I just worry about like investors who come in who maybe getting grants to buy these homes and whatnot, just something to think about. And that's my thought.
Dr. So I won't throw that one your way. Got a lot to unpack there. So I think the first thing is with regard to like private equity buying up family homes. That's a problem that's outside the scope of the township. This is a national issue with private equity coming in and scooping up starter homes, family homes, raising rent prices, raising housing prices, doing unsavory things in the market of real estate. I think personally, I agree with you that there's major problems there. I don't think that's something we can do too much about when it comes to applying for revitalization grants. But Delta speak to that, and perhaps that looks like to help meet the picture for some of the public.
Yeah, I think as it relates to housing, I mean, it's two-pronged, right? One is taking your housing stock and doing a rehabilitation program. And the goal of that is to allow seniors to age in place. You know, there may be a lot of seniors who are on fixed income, can't afford a new roof, can't afford windows, can't afford to bring the home up to the current energy standards. And that's the major goal of that housing rehab program. As those seniors decide that maybe we want to move into or have to move into assisted living, that opens that home to a younger generation, possibly. As it relates to some of the mixed use development, those are going to be developments that are going to be owned by, normal people buying homes, just as it is in every other community. But I agree, you can stop an investor to come in and buy a home and rent it out. I mean, that's, I live in a neighborhood that was a traditional neighborhood development, and we property owners who have either decided to rent out their properties because they've moved somewhere else. So we're seeing that, a number of renters, but I mean, it hasn't changed the dynamics of our neighborhood. I mean, our neighborhood has stayed the same. So I think there's two issues as it relates to housing. One is the housing room, and that is to upgrade your housing stock. And the other is creating some of these mixed use neighborhoods that were identified by the public in those open houses and community surveys as being something that they wanted to see within the community, which not only provides additional housing within your community, but also increases property values and property tax and helps, some of that burden now placed on you for taxes.
Before turning over to Kevin, I also just I feel like it's one technology. Just one of the things I don't want to presume the intention of part of the previous comment, but there are beautiful people that live in Reading. I encourage everyone to go visit Reading. I have a lot of fun visiting Reading, and I don't think I'm not going to presume anything was meant. But I understand it. When my wife and I were searching for the phrase I like to say is they put, and I'm coining myself, was the lipstick on a pig. Get somebody buy a house, flip it, paint the walls, do nothing about shoddy electrical that hadn't been touched in 45 years, and then they turn it over quick and don't really do much due diligence the way. So that is duly noted. But I don't think that's what we're after with this. So
no, but you will find professionals that are rental housing. They will be the first ones moving into your community. They're not quite sure where they live, and have a family, and they need a rental home versus coming in and just buying a home. So keep that in mind too, as far as the needs for your community and your housing stock.
Kevin Armour, 33 Fawn Drive. first of all, thank you for opening the dialogue. I think I've lived here a good number of years, but not a lot of years as many of the people here have. I think the taxes are tough, and we understand that, but by not being proactive in the community, we let that happen. And what I take out of today, just giving you a perspective of sitting in the audience, is there are a lot of opportunities to open the dialogue. I had no idea there was a ski resort in that area. I didn't even know it was an ice rink. The branding that they talked about is opening a website to introducing some of these things to some of these younger people. I mean, I'm oldie. I'm there all the time with my dogs. I mean, anytime of year, hiking all the time and opening that community. So again, I say thank you. I say thank you for the challenges. I also agree. I think protecting our seniors and protecting those on fixed incomes is very important because we're all going to be there someday. I wish I was retiring a lot sooner than I am. But to that regards, I think there are other things that we just need to get out in the open, have those discussions, understand some of the impacts that it might have, weigh those pros and cons, and make an active, conscious decision as a community. This is the first outreach. I mean, I've had discussions with the township before, but this is probably the first significant outreach over the last several months that I've seen since the 17 years that I've lived here. So again, I just want to say thank you for starting the dialogue and keeping it going.
Starting to look at people, but I guess that's not appropriate to me. Change. There's been a change. There's a new sheriff in Dodge. So this is deja vu all over again. Say some things that I've said over again. And you can't steal second base unless you take your foot off first base. That's abusive. And to take our foot off the first base that we've been on for years and change the course of the ship. And it's indicative of the people that are here in the audience feel the same way. Some of the taxes, recreation, we just need to take action. For somebody to taking that action, and we consider this to be inappropriate, but the gentleman is going to be running for the House in this district, and we're hopeful that he's here tonight just to show everyone that he's interested in this community. So it's important that we do that. Two, Mr. Bobick, Dietrich. Well, I was done because I'm pushing 79, so you know I got chronologically gifted badge here. So something that's called generational justice. This country delivered, we want our offspring to live 3, 4, 5, 6 generations. If we don't do something now, a good thing so important to the growth of our community. So those two ideas, I just am happy to see this participation tonight. I think we give everybody a round of applause for being here. Question for Delta. That you applied for.
Is to be soon. We're hearing soon. That was the larger one. The LSAs, it follows the legislation. It should be September. It's an election, so it could move into next year, but it should be September of this year. Should I? Is it going to be upon Is it going to be starting from scratch? Take that current thing.
Just wanted to follow up on that point. What is happening in a vacuum, I think you said already. There's could be going with some that's been done, what, 2017, give or take, something like that. There's Berks County development plans. There's the Chamber of Commerce. These groups are involved in this. Without words, the support and involvement in Cumru Township with this economic development initiative goes beyond Cumru Township, goes beyond the boundaries of Berks County. I'll just say representatives in the state Congress who are well of what's going on here and very supportive of what's going on here. We have support at the county level. We have engagement at the federal level. So this is just a Cumru Township taking a swing in the dark situation. We are seeking our local community support. We're seeking the county support. We're seeking a coalition of support to make Cumru what we all want it to be. So with that, unless there's a last question, I think let's go.
Great question.
No worries.
Jerry Zachman, Freemansville Road. My wife does real estate appraisals, and the school district makes no difference on the value of your home. You got an acre, you got a house, it's 2,000 square feet, you got a 2-car garage attached. Doesn't matter if it's here or if it's off of Chapel Hill Road. Because my wife will use that house to compare. So, and another thing, taxes aren't that high yet. In England, they have that value added tax, and I think up in Canada they have that, where everything you buy, you pay a wicked tax on. We don't do that. I don't really complain about my taxes because mainly I can afford to pay them, and I have oversight in my voting. So I just want to thank everybody for what's been done so far, and we do need to continue. So that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would, if possible, I'd like to just say two things. So first of all, thank you for opening the conversation and giving an opportunity for us to find other ways than to burden the taxpayers. But I grew up in Shillington my entire life until I got married and had kids. The toboggan's not there. The porty's not there. That green flag doesn't go up in front of the Shillington pool anymore in the winter because somebody said, I'm not going to be around to benefit from it. That's why it's not here anymore. Somebody else said that, so we couldn't benefit from it. So think about that. I know you have a benefit. What's happening? I'm to look at the kids in the future and invest in them. And second, our school district is not failing. Not failing. You look at one snapshot in time of a state assessment that doesn't matter. We're not failing. Ask Wilson if they have 2 kids with full ride scholarships to Ivy League schools. Then we can talk. Thank you.
I'm gonna close this out with this, and I've said this at a previous commissioners meeting. Proverb, I don't know what to attribute it to, but it goes something along the lines of a wise man plants a seed for a tree under whose shade he knows he will never feel. Not going to be feeling the shade. Thank you, Dr. House. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you, Delta, for the presentation.